The Sunshine Coast Trail is Canada's longest hut-to-hut hiking trail, just 5 hours north of Vancouver, BC. It's a unique and beautiful backcountry experience that stretches 180 kilometers from Sarah Point to Saltery Bay, through old-growth forests, along coastal shorelines, and up to panoramic mountaintops. Early June of 2019, my good friend Adam and I planned on fastpacking a large portion of the trail, starting from Powell River and running 115 kilometers back to Saltery Bay. Our primary goal was to train and test out our ultralight camping gear for our upcoming 5-day fastpack of the Tahoe Rim Trail a few weeks later. We took an early ferry on Saturday morning from Horseshoe Bay to Langdale, before driving up to Earl's Cove, where we left our car. We then hopped on a second ferry by foot, where we had hoped to catch a ride with a fellow ferry goer onto Powell River. All right, we managed to get a ride. Hell yeah. We left our car here at the ferry terminal. We got a half-hour drive to Powell River, and then we're going to start our run. For our first day on the trail, our goal was to make it from Powell River to the summit of Tin Hat Mountain, to camp outside in our bivy sacks alongside the hut. It was about 1:30 p.m. by the time we arrived in Powell River, had a quick lunch, and ran from town to the trailhead.
There's a camp for the night, just a couple pesky kilometers away.
After a long approach, we prepared to begin for the big climb up Tin Hat Mountain. What do you think?
So I've got an extra 1.5 liters of water strapped to my bag because there's no water on top of Tin Hat Mountain, so we have to bring our cooking water up with us for tonight and tomorrow morning. How much water do you have, Adam?
Another 1.5 liters, and luckily it's only like 1,000 meters of elevation gain to the top.
Just an extra 4 pounds, you know.
This was the heaviest our packs would be, with 3 days of food, along with our minimalist camping gear, plus the additional water for cooking and drinking at the summit. finally arrived at 10 p.m. after 8.5 hours on feet, having covered 37 kilometers with 2,400 meters of ascent.
Pretty cozy in there.
Oh yeah, man. I got best room in the hotel. I got stargazing.
We enjoyed our dehydrated meals alongside some fellow campers around a fire and then tucked into our bivy sacks around midnight. Alarms set for 5 a.m. to catch what we knew would be an incredible sunrise.
So we're gonna drop down to Lewis Lake there, and then I think we climb up and over this little hill here, drop down to the lake again, and then back up to Mount Trowbridge, which is the highest point on the trail, and then all the way back to Saltery Bay. And that's the ridge right there that we climbed last night. We were up top of that around 8 o'clock last night, and then had to drop down around the backside of the lake there, all the way around, and then climb up here to the hut.
We jumped back in our bivy sacks for another hour of sleep, then had a quick breakfast, and were back on the trail by 8 to begin our descent.
Let's go.
This was to be the biggest day of the 3, with the goal being to make it as close to the summit of Mount Trowbridge as we could. The day was long and hot, but our packs were finally starting to feel a bit lighter and we were moving well.
There's camp for night 1, just up on the bluff there on top of Tin Hat. Now we're at Lewis Lake. Some friends on the trail, Jeff.
That looks a little bit older, but we did see some earlier that looked pretty fresh, just a few hours old. So we've been being pretty careful out here.
Hey, Bert. Hit. calories you putting down in there?
I've got 800 calories in here.
Was that on purpose?
That was an accident. I meant to have 400 calories, but I forgot that that's 400 calories per serving, so I've got an 800 calorie lunch. All right, so we just stopped for a quick lunch, made a hot meal. We had about half of a dehydrated meal each, and we saved the rest for a snack in a couple hours. We've got a little bit more climbing to do, and then we're gonna do a big descent, and then we have our biggest climb of the day, about 1,300 meters. It's actually the biggest climb and the high point of the entire trail. But we have a few options as well if we want to camp lower, so we'll see how the day goes. All right, so we're about 8 hours into our day, and we still have to go way over and up that peak over there. Looking doubtful that we'll get up there in the next 4 hours, so we're trying to assess maybe where we can camp below the summit of Mount Trowbridge. It makes for a pretty long day tomorrow morning, so we're gonna have an early start in the morning to make sure we make our ferry in the afternoon. Slippery. Horseman's, what does that put us at?
33.5K left tomorrow morning.
By 7:30, we'd made it as far as Horseman's campsite at Lewis Point when we finally decided to call it a day. After covering 52 kilometers with 2,000 meters of climbing in 11 and a half hours, the final 1,300 meter climb up Mount Trowbridge would have to wait until tomorrow. We woke up at 5 a.m. to hit the trail by 5:45. Our packs were now at their lightest, but our biggest climb awaited.
Somehow, still hard to get everything in.
So it's Monday morning, and we're just leaving camp here at about 10 to 6, making our way up to Mount Trowbridge, 18 kilometers with about 1,300 meters of climbing, and then from there we have about 21K left to get to the finish at Saltery Bay. Decided to skip breakfast to get an earlier start, and we're going to stop in about an hour or two for a little break and have coffee and breakfast.
Since we had come up a little short on our goal the day prior, the pressure was now on if we were going to make it back to Saltery Bay for the afternoon ferry.
at this.
The 1,300-meter climb up Mount Trowbridge came and went, this section of the trail being some of the nicest we'd seen yet. After cruising down the other side back to sea level, we felt like we were home free, although we still had a bit of work ahead of us. The final 8 kilometers or so of rolling technical terrain was taking a little longer than we'd hoped, so we had to drop the hammer. But we managed to make it back to the ferry terminal with about 20 minutes to spare, after covering 33 kilometers with 2,000 meters of elevation gain in 8 hours. Our gear had worked out perfectly, and the trip was a complete success. We were ready for our next fast-packing adventure on the Tahoe Rim Trail in just a few short weeks.
Cheers.